So let's say you're a freelance designer or a design agency, work is coming in and you want to design your websites fast. Well, I'm sure we can agree that if you start designing these websites from scratch every single time, this could take you a very long time. So Divi has a solution to that. It's called Divi Quick Sites. So if I come over here, you can see I'm in my dashboard. I've already gone ahead and installed Divi 5. So let's go ahead and click on Quick Sites. So if I click over here, we have ready-made websites. So at the moment, we have these two options. We can either generate with AI or we can use a pre-made starter site. So that's what we're going to use in this example. So I'm going to go ahead and select a website. And you can see here, we have several design options. So you would go through these and see which one you would like to use for your design. So as you can see, there's so many of them. So in this example, we're just going to choose a basic one. We can go with something like this. And then all I have to do is to click on Start. And then I can give it a name here if I want to give it a slogan. So in this case here, it has WooCommerce selected. Now I don't want that. So I want to remove that. Okay, so we're keeping everything simple here. I could actually go in and add a custom page, but we are not going to do that. Over here, you can see it's asking us for custom fonts and all of that. Again, I'm just going to leave this as it is. And then just go ahead and generate the site. So I'm going to click here to generate the site. It's going to take a bit of time. And in a moment, I am going to have a fully functioning website. Now, the challenge with this is it's going to have its own design, its own presets. But if you want consistency throughout all your websites, then you're going to need some sort of a framework. Thankfully, I have SiteCrafter. This is a Divi framework which ensures that you have responsive, fluid typography, because these sites do not have fluid typography, which means you're not going to score great on accessibility on your fonts. So this is what SiteCrafter solves. Also, the spacing is solved using the framework. So I'm going to show you now how to use that. Okay, so as you can see here, everything has gone in, it is installed. So let's view our site. So I'm going to click here to view my site. It's going to open in a new tab, and sure enough, we have a site. We have a header here, we have all this text and so on. Okay, great. Now, let's just test and see if this is fluid. So I can see here, I can see the jumps. Do you see that? There's a jump there straight away. So definitely this is not fluid. So ideally, we want to make sure that this is fluid. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click on Edit with Divi. So the first thing we want to do here is to make sure that we get rid of all the presets that we have on this site. So I'm going to click now on this text, and I can see here that we have a bunch of presets. Do you see all that? So we need to get rid of all this because the SiteCrafter framework gives us everything that we need in terms of the sizes and all that. Okay, so let's go ahead now and delete one by one. I know this is going to be long and to be honest, quite annoying, but this has to be done if you want to achieve consistency. So I'm going to take some time here and delete all these one by one. Now, after I've deleted all the text, I'm going to come back and then show you what you need to do next. So let's say you've deleted all your presets, all your text presets. The next thing you need to do is to now head over to diviuniversity.com/SK code. So this is for those of you that have already purchased SiteCrafter. So as I mentioned, it's a framework. So it comes in as a bundle. You can install it as a plugin, but if you want to use it on existing websites, this is the way you do it. So this code is going to allow you to have all the sizes that you need, and it's going to have all the responsiveness, all the spacing, pretty much all the code you need. And I'm going to show you now how you can apply it. So what you do now is you head over here to this page. Now, if you haven't purchased SiteCrafter, you are not going to see this page. All right, so let's go ahead and copy the code like that. Okay, great. So now that I've copied it, I don't need this anymore. We're now going to go to our Divi website. We come all the way down here to theme options, and then we scroll all the way down to custom CSS. And this is where we go ahead and paste it and then save changes. Okay, great. So now that we've saved changes, we need to continue on and delete all the presets, make sure that all the existing presets are gone. So at the moment, I've removed as many presets as possible, but sometimes, of course, as you're designing, you may see other presets along the way, but if you see them, you can just go ahead and delete them. So let's dive in now and see how SiteCrafter is going to solve our problem and make our website easier to manage. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my text one by one and then resize everything. So I'm going to come over here on this first one. And this is a heading. We can see here it starts with a heading, hello, I'm Sarah. So you need to decide now what size you want to add. So first of all, let's add our class, and this is SK. So SK is going to solve all our default text. So at this point, if you want, you can go in and set it as a default. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to come over here to the top and I'm going to say create new preset from current styles. So this is going to solve all our problems when it comes to our fonts. So as it's loading here, I'm going to wait for it and then I'm going to name this preset. Okay, so now I can call it SK main text. So just that I remember. Next, I'm going to assign as default. So I want this to apply across the whole website. So this means I'm now going to have responsive, fluent fonts across the whole website. So you can see here it's taking quite a bit of time because there are quite a few pages that needs to be done. Now, just by doing that, you can see everything here has updated, which is fantastic. Look at that. Okay. I know you're probably thinking, well, the sizes are all crazy. Well, here's what you need to do. So you come here to the first one, you click on this gear icon, and then you head over here to design. So we know this is heading text. So we'll come over here. It's set to heading 1. So we can bring it down to heading 4 like that. Next, we come over here to this one, click on this gear icon. And again, we know it's heading text because we have heading here. Again, we can just change this, perhaps maybe to heading 3, but this time, perhaps maybe even heading 2. Okay. So we can see here that we have spacing issues. So I'm just going to come down here to spacing and we can see here there's nothing. So I'm going to select this, come over here to advanced. CSS ID and classes, and I'm going to add my margin, and then I'm just going to add my SK back because that determines the size of my fonts. Okay, great. Next, we're going to come over here and just make sure that we don't have any sizing set here. So we're going to come over here to spacing and we can see there's nothing. Next, we can come over here to this button if you want to make any changes to this button and continue like that. So back over here, I'd like to make this bold. So let's head over back to our CSS ID and I am just going to say bold. And I've just noticed that this hasn't worked. Now, sometimes this happens. I'm just going to save that. And the challenge is it could be that when this was set up in the theme options, there was there's a set size to this. So to fix that, all you have to do is to come over here, go to your appearance, and then go to customize. So in the customizer here, you just want to make sure that things are all set correctly. So we're going to go to general settings, we're going to go typography, and we can see here that we have our header font as Gothic A1, and the weight here is set by default to medium. So I guess this is where we're getting the problem. So let's set this to bold. Okay. So at least now we know that this is set to bold. Now we also notice that we have a line height which was set here, which means I can't really go in and customize this because our framework comes with a line height in there as well. Okay, right. So we don't really need, all these sizes. Everything is okay. All right. So now with that all selected, let's just go back. I'm going to hit publish. Then we're just going to refresh here to make sure we have the latest updates. Okay, great. So now we have the latest updates. We're just going to come over here now to our row settings, go into design, sizing, and we're just going to make sure we have a gutter width because sometimes this also affects the spacing on our items. I'm going to bring it down to 1. Now, do you see what happened there? Can you see the spacing between the button and the text? It's all changing. So you just want to make sure that you have everything all set correctly here. Okay, excellent. So now that we have all this set, we can now go ahead and save. So that's our first section. Now let's move on. So here again, we have this as a heading. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be happy designing this as a heading in this manner because this doesn't look great. So I'm just going to copy this and delete, and then we're going to add a paragraph That way, it's just much easier to maintain. So as you can see, sometimes you get these starter sites, but they don't really have the content that you need structured in the proper way. Okay, so if we have this, we've got much better control. So if I come over here now to CSS ID and classes, of course, that's my class. But what I could do now, we could say heading dash medium. Now, do you see now that that is much better than just having, this massive headings? So I can actually start off with a paragraph, but I can manage it over here. So heading medium, this looks much better. And then I can go in and select this one here. Again, this is a heading. In fact, to be honest, this is, quite frustrating. So anyways, it is what it is. I have this, so let's just continue working with it. All right, so over here on the design, let me see what I can do with the spacing. Okay, so you can see here they've set this 20 pixel. I'm going to get rid of that because I am going to fix it manually. All right, so now we can go to advanced CSS ID and classes, and we are now going to set this to, in fact, it's a heading, by the way. So let's get rid of it. Okay, let's get rid of it completely. So I'm going to copy that and then just add it as a text module. All right, great. So I can go in now and just add that add Sarah designs, and then we're going to delete the one that we have here. So in this one now, I can go in quickly and change that. So let's head over to advanced CSS ID and classes. So I'm going to say heading, and then, or we can just say text small. Oops. Okay. So now that I have that, if you want to bring it back to the colors that we have, I think we are going to have our colors globally. And sure enough, this is our primary color. I can set my color there. And while I'm here, I might as well go in and make sure that my spacing is right. Okay, but we don't want to do it there. This is where we want to do it. So we're going to say margin dash top, and then we're going to make this medium like that. And then we also have a button here. So we're going to go in advanced CSS ID and classes. And for the button here, we're going to say margin top. And we're also going to add our custom spacing, and let's go with small. Okay, small like that. So now we're starting to have a structure on this section here, and I can go to about me as well. You can see it's set as heading. Okay, I'm going to leave that as it is. It's responsive anyways. Okay, so far we have all these colors here all set. So what you want to do is to continue on and update all these sizes. Again, I can see we have a bit of an issue here. We can go in, come over here to advanced, and let's add our class because it wasn't updated. Okay, so can you say SK, and now you can see it has been updated. So if we want, margins don't only work with margin top, we can also add a margin bottom to this. Let me just show you quickly. So I'm going to say margin dash bottom, and then we are going to say small like that. Okay, so I think that works. Okay, our button is intact. Over here we have our headings, so I think that heading is too much, so we're going to come over here to heading text and set this to heading 3. Now I noticed that within this, the spacing here and the rounded corners is not right, but if you want to go in and customize that, of course you can go in and do that. Next, we also have some text here that needs to be sorted out. So I'm going to come over here, CSS ID and classes. I'm going to add my SK, and now my text has been updated. So this is where now you want to continue on. So this is a button again. So let's add our margin top. Now, can you see how easy it is now to update this? So it's margin top, and I'm going to say medium. In fact, I can just go small like that, and you can see it moved. Now this text here is a bit too much, and I think this must have been set to heading 1. You can see it's set to heading 1. I mean, this is not the great use of these headings, but of course I've shown you how to go in and customize these. Okay, so far so good. This is already, sorted. We can also come over here now. Wireframing and prototyping. We click in here, and again, I'm sure this is set to heading 1, but this needs to be a heading 3. Now, do you see how easy that is now? I mean, it looks way much better. Heading 3, come over here, set this to heading 3 as well, like that. Okay, so at least we are going somewhere with this. Okay, back over here, we're going to set this to responsive and fluid. So we're going to add our SK, and now it's looking great. For our button here, we're going to add a bit of spacing again. So we're going to come to advanced, and we are going to set our margin top like that. And we're going to set this to small because that's what we did on the top one, because we want to maintain consistency. So you can see here, everything now is consistent. At any point, if I need to come in and change the sizing, I don't have to go here and then start playing around with custom spacing, and then I'm taking a look at my margins. And anyway, even if I add the margins here, they're not responsive. That's where the problem is. They're not responsive. This is why you need the framework to maintain your spacing and your responsiveness. So as you continue here, everything now is all set. You can just come over here, set this to heading 3, and you can continue on because everything else here is all set. Okay, heading text, heading 3, and we can just continue on and set our sizes. Now this ensures that you have consistency now throughout. So if any designer wants to come in and make changes to this, you know that they're not going to go into the design tab and mess around with things in here because everything is set over here, okay, on the CSS classes. And this is what makes SiteCrafter very, very easy to use. Okay, same thing over here. This whole thing can be updated just by coming over here and setting SK. Do you see that? This is now responsive text. Come over here, advanced, and then we're going to set this to SK. This is going to be amazing, responsive, fluid, throughout the whole website. Okay, let's go ahead, SK. And while we're here, do you notice that things are not looking great here in terms of spacing around this? So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I just want to make sure that when I come over here to spacing, there's nothing. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. Okay, and this looks much better. I don't even know why it was removed here. It's a bit weird, but anyways, let's just go in and remove the spacing. And this is how you clean up everything like that. Then one more time here, go in, spacing, and remove it like that. Okay, great. But now let's say you want to add specific spacing throughout this. You can just click on the module settings, come over here, and then you go to your CSS ID and classes, and then you can just say padding, and then you can either choose small, and notice that you have equal padding across the whole item. Okay, because right now it's not clear with the padding that we have here. So now I've added small, so I can say, okay, small is a bit too small. I can add large. Now notice that everything is spaced out correctly, but from just looking at this, I think that's a bit too much. It's a bit too extreme. So I can say medium. Okay, now look at that. This is a much, much better. I can copy this and then just add it to the remainder of these other items. Okay, so make sure you add a space here, and then we're going to do the same here as well. Advanced. Okay, so I have SK twice. Just get rid of that. And I think that's the case here as well. Okay, so now that we have all our spacing done, this padding medium or padding small or padding large can be applied pretty much anywhere across the site. So it is very, very versatile when you use this. Now these images here, there is a bit of inconsistency. We can see we have rounded corners here. So I think it makes sense that we also have rounded corners here. Now let me show you how SiteCrafter also solves this. So with this selected now, I'm going to come over here to advanced. Now, what's this? It's a blurb. Okay, that's a bit strange. So let's try this radius. So we're going to add our radius and we are going to say large. Now, do you see this? I've just added some rounded corners there. It's now cleaner. It's now much, much nicer. So I'm going to copy that, add it to this as well. So I'm making updates to my layout here, slowly on the go. Then we're going to come over here, update that. So now I've added my rounded corners just by using my class here, radius large. Okay, this is looking pretty cool. Now, the other thing that we also need to be aware of here is our sections. So right now, I don't see any consistency in my sections. So what I want to do is to clean this all up and make sure everything is fine. So with my section here selected, I'm now going to head over to design and just make sure there's no sizes here. So you can see there's no sizes. So I'm going to go to advanced, and I'm going to say this needs to be section, and we want to make sure that it's set to large. Okay. In fact, it's the other way around. That's why it didn't work. It's large section like that. Now, did you notice that something happened? There are a few things moved here. Okay. So that's much better. And you can even go tighter and make sure you have specific sizing across all your websites. So while we are here, we have our row settings. If I go to advanced, I can actually say, I don't want any padding. Okay. So I'm going to say no padding. Do you see what happened there? It moved. So I can go to all my rows and just make sure that I don't have any padding. That way I can determine the sizes of everything across my whole website. So I'm going to again say no padding, and that removes the padding. So I can specifically now go into this row and then say for all these rows, I am going to set this to margin dash top, and I'm going to set this to medium. Okay, now do you see that the spacing is now much easier to control? At any point, if I see that, oh, you know what, this doesn't look good across the whole website where I've applied this, I can just go in and say, okay, you know what, I think large works better. Boom. And just like that, I am good to go. So I am now setting up this website on a class level. Again, you see that here we have a row. It's not clear what this spacing is. So we want our spacing to be precise. So again, I'm going to come over here, advanced, and we're going to make sure that there's no spacing like that. No, it's no padding. What am I doing? You know, sometimes I forget. So there we go. So it's very close. You can see that. So we are now going to make sure that we have this row selected, and then we're just going to add a margin bottom. This way I can really see what is happening in real time. So I'm going to say margin dash bottom like that. And then I'm going to set this to medium, maybe large, because things are not the same size here. There we go. Okay, so that looks much better with our spacing. So we know we have responsive sections and everything now is lined up correctly. So if at any point you want to maybe reduce the gap here, you can just go into design, and then we can add our gutter and reduce it this way. Okay. All right. So now that we have this all set, you have an idea now of how you can go in and really, customize everything here. So this is going to be our hero section. So let's make sure we set this to our hero section. Okay. So I'm going to say hero dash section, and you can see now my spacing is now much, much better. And I can also go in here into my row settings and say no padding. So let's go ahead and say no padding. Okay. So here our spacing is precise. And when someone now visits your site, they're going to see that everything here is going to be, very, very consistent in terms of the spacing. Now, it doesn't mean that if you use one of these starter sites, you can just stick to what we have. You can actually go in and make some changes. For example, you can go into the section settings here and change your background color. And just leave this with a much different color. And then we can go into our section here, and we want to make this a large. Okay. Look at the spacing now. This is looking much, much better. It has, beautiful breathing space. So at this point now, we can go in and start previewing our design. Okay, I've just hit save here. Let me just do a quick preview. Okay, so you can see our font here is looking much better. Now, I don't know why the color has not been applied and moved over. Sometimes that happens with these presets. So what we need to test now is our fonts and how everything is working now. Look at that font. Okay, it's getting smaller and smaller, and it's dynamic. Our spacing is great, as you can see here. Look at that, nice, easy to read. And again, if I move this, you can see there everything looks great. So the idea here is to go in and just make sure that you have replaced all these presets and the framework is at work. I know I may not have demonstrated this good enough, but you want to pretty much clean all the presets. And once you have your classes working from SiteCrafter, it is much easier now to go back to this website and make those little adjustments. Even if you want to go and adjust the line height, everything from the framework is global. So at any point, let's say you hand over this to one of your team members, they don't have to go into each and every module and set the margins, set the padding, and all of that. This is done with the framework, SiteCrafter framework. All right, so I hope you can see the benefit of the framework, and this is what you want to do when you start using these pre-made or starter sites, which are given to us free with Divi. So at the moment, I've just resolved the texts and the spacing. So at this stage now, this is where you can go in and start adding your own images and then adding all your text on there as well. And by adding all your text, it means now you're starting to have a custom website based on this particular starter site. Anyway, if you haven't signed up yet to Divi University, go ahead and do that, because on Divi University, this is a platform, a community of Divi designers, and we can share ideas over there. And if you haven't purchased SiteCrafter yet, go ahead and purchase it. The link to that is in the video description below. The 40% discount is still available, so go ahead and take advantage of that. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.